Welcome to the Hudson Valley Strong Dads Podcast, your weekly dose of everything dads need to navigate fatherly relationships, their bodies, and spirits. This show is rated M for manly. And now, your host. He was once known for wearing Nike and Adidas at the same time. Currently in the race to be the next Dos Equis most interesting man alive, Lou Torres.
All right, guys, what's going on? This is Lou from Hudson Valley Strong Dads Podcast. I apologize for the shadow. There's a lamp next to me. I can't get rid of it or else it'd be too dark, right? See if I could edit it in some way. So we've talked about a lot about mindset for obviously handling relationships and the father side, right? This whole thing is about fitness also for guys, right? So figured I'd build like a 9-10 series laws of basically building muscle or getting fit, right, for men. And one of the things that you want to do, just rule number one or law number one, we're going to go over is building your blueprint, right? Building your blueprint just means defining your starting point, which is we'll go into a couple different measures, understanding and measuring your progress, and then determining what tools you need to do so. So let's start with number one is essentially defining your starting point, and that's like where are you at? Are you a person that's been laid up for a while, hasn't done anything, acquired a couple injuries, haven't done anything in a year, 2 years, 3 years, over 40% body fat, not doing anything? So the starting point and the body composition and where your mind is determines the rest of the flow of everything we put together. So if we haven't done anything in a while, I would honestly say just 10-minute walks just in the beginning, right? Start off with baby steps. Let's do one thing every day to get more active, to increase our NEAT, which NEAT is just an acronym, which is non-exercise activity, something with a T, I forget what it is, total, I think. Non-exercise activity total. So that means it's not necessarily you're in the gym, but are you walking more? Are you parking further than when you're going shopping and you have to walk an extra 50 yards to do so? All this stuff accumulates into a thermogenic effect, which is turning up that output dial and burning fat or burning calories rather. So that's number one. Are you a person that's in the middle ground? You just had a small hiatus. Well, you have to still go back and track and see what you've done or what you haven't done and make strands forward. Can you just run the same program you did before, right? Just possibly establishing some new numbers in there or starting off wherever you're at. And then number three, really, are you the person that just took 2 months off or a month off? And honestly, that rest period probably did you, as long as your nutrition was pretty good, that rest period probably did your body and joints more good than bad, to be honest. Understanding and how to measure progress. I'm under I have a thing that I want people to measure frequently, but then when they measure frequently, I also want you to understand expectations of what might happen. So when I say measure frequently is pretty much the scale, right? And we don't have to get into body fat percentages every day or every other week or whatever. But when you're talking about the scale, that total number sometimes dictates somebody's identity. And understand that your body is, you're going to have a low side on the weight and you're going to have a high side. So I'm always in between 212 and 218, somewhere in that range, right? And I know if I had a couple too many strong days of carbohydrates, I'll be teetering up towards 220, right? So the thing is understanding that on a daily basis, you're going to have a low side and a high side, an average low, average high. Understanding that average low and average high should start to get lower if you're trying to lose body fat. This is where people get confused. They think of just weight. So, and that's where it ties into your nutrition. Also, if you don't have an adequate amount of protein in your diet, you are just going to lose weight. And the weight is a total number of fat and connective tissue on our body, which is decreasing in size. So one of the things when I train men and women in general is I want you to look like you work out. So with quick nutrition talk, your numbers, the total calorie amount matters. But let's just say somebody had a 3,000 calorie diet and somebody else had a 3,000 calorie diet, but the numbers of protein, fats, and carbs, say it was only like 20% protein and it's like 40% fats and 40% carbohydrates, they're going to lose weight. And then they may just end up being a skinnier version of themselves. You know what I'm saying? So if you have like a 40-50% protein, and you may not need that much, to be honest, and then you split the other variances, and I always tell men 25 to 30% of fats, because fats are what drive hormones. There's a reason why men are having so much, you see all the commercials for low ED, low erectile dysfunction. When there's not enough abundance of saturated fats in the diet, fats drive hormones, testosterone production. So if you're eating crappy foods all the time, you're not even fueling the machine to produce one of the things that make us men, right? So that's just like understanding measuring goals. And I say you should have short-term and long-term goals, right? And understand that we need to get there. And then determine your tools. Easy tool for everybody is just a scale, the mirror, progress photos. If you want to go crazy, you could start. A tape to measure body parts is not hugely an expensive thing, right? But nowadays you could buy scales that do body fat impedance tests, meaning through it's going to send a signal in its way and tell you percentage body fat that you have, and that's a little bit more pricey. You could go as far as going to universities, and some universities will have really high-end tools to measure body fat and measure your. They may even have some type of training service at the school where kids are learning, in a sense, that could be able to do fat caliber test or something a little bit higher than the level that you may be able to get to and stuff like that. But I would say that's rule number one is figuring out, building your blueprint. And it starts with what is it that you're doing? What is it that you have been doing, right? And number two, what I always dive into is, why do you really want to do this? Because this is, like I always say, motivation is BS, right? And your intrinsic motivators are a lot more than your extrinsic motivators. But building your blueprint is law number one. Now you could hire, if you're going to go do this on your own, by all means, right? Not everybody has the funds to hire a trainer like myself. But if you do have the funds and understand the value of a trainer, a pro trainer to do all the thinking for you, you just have to show up, in a sense, right? And just follow the plan. And that's what we do. We make the process kind of seamless and as easy to digest form. And if you don't have the funds, you're going to have to get some knowledge and basically study. And you're going to probably most likely get frustrated because you don't know where to spend your energy. And that's what I see that people do. They just don't know where to spend their energy. They worry about the little things that necessarily aren't the things that need to be worried about. So I would say those three things: defining your starting point, understanding a way to measuring your progress, and then determining the tools that you can measure your progress with also, right? But number three, I always just like the scale and photos. And then clients that work with me at TSA, they get to see me every day. So I get to see where their morale is at, how they feel, what's going on outside of the gym. Because the real of it is, if they come to me 4 days a week, for an hour, there's a lot of other hours that are away from me, right? So there's a lot of stuff in their life that's happening. But this is just law number one. I'm going to have 10 laws here that we'll build in weekly. This is Lou from Hudson Valley Strong Dads Podcast. Till later, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Hudson Valley Strong Dads Podcast, your weekly dose of everything dads need to navigate fatherly relationships, their bodies, and spirits. For more info, log on to www.hvdadspodcast.com.